cloud. Oh, that's
Oh,
too. I
yeah.
have I have a poem from Joe Sanders called "Digging for Gold." I am searching for something, anything, looking through my muddle, disturbing piles, hidden for years, under the bed, backs of cupboards, deep in plastic bags. I want to clear a space I can walk through, love again, recognise as me. Occasionally I discard something without the wrench of letting go. Sometimes I find objects long forgotten, small things I recover and polish till they gleam. There are things I discover as though for the first time, sunken, lost in memory, things perhaps I could use differently. Too many words. I say the first things that come to me. I should like to keep the useful ones that I employ every day, ones you will understand and relate to. But inside me are words I look for endlessly and cannot find, the ones buried that I could rescue and rub to make them shine.
That's
Crazy.
rather nice, Peter, isn't it? I think we
Yes,
like that one.
yes, no,
Yeah.
Joe's a good poet.
Lovely. Excellent. Um, we haven't got Mohammed here either as yet. I don't know if he's a football fanatic, but can we move on then to Jane, please? Jane, hi, Jane. Lovely to see you.
That's quick. I thought I was numbers 5 or 6.
No, you were actually 3.
Okay.
According
All
to my
right
list,
then.
but,
Yeah, that's all right. That's all right. Yeah.
okay.
We can only see the top of your head, Jane.
You
We'd
can
like
Yes.
only see the top of my head.
We can
Not
only
my-
see the top of your head.
And
What,
you're
my
very nice.
face?
You've got a lovely picture there behind you, but we
Yeah,
can
but you can't.
just
You
can't see your
me.
lips at all,
Okay, let's see.
which is
I'll
that's
make-
better.
Is that
Okay.
better? I'm standing though.
Oh no, we don't want you standing.
I think I'll
Couldn't the thing be lowered? The screen.
I'll sit on something. Oh, if I do this,
Yes,
yeah,
that's better, but it's still not.
not.
Can you not see your face, Jane?
And I've got funny stripes and strips or something. I can't see myself very well.
Well, we
Oh,
can.
is that
that's
better?
That is perfect. But you're not
Okay.
uncomfortable, are you? Are you
Sorry.
comfortable?
Yes, I'm comfortable.
Oh,
Yes.
well, that's a perfect. You're framed very well now.
Okay.
Okay,
Lovely.
I'm going to mute now, Jane. I'll let you get on with it.
Yes, I'm going to do 2 poems with the sort of theme of travel, if you like. This first one is called Home Thoughts from Amgris 2. A few years ago, I can't remember how long ago, I was invited to Germany to do sessions of 2 Real Schule storytelling. It was quite interesting, actually. And where I lived, there's a river, just going the River Preen. And it took me right back to Dominica because we've got supposedly 365 rivers. I don't know whether they've ever counted them, but anyway. So yes, Home Thoughts from Amgris 2. Softly she glides past my window, the River Preen, a shimmering snake, lighting up the dark, dark night on her way to Lake Kimsey. Without intent, she transports me to a distant shore, to the River Clare, the Jacques, the Subaya, and not least the White River, opaque and sulfurous effluence of the steamy boiling lake. Those rivers chortled in unison with our youthful laughter so long ago, yet were never quite so close as to have lulled us to sleep. Here, from my bed in Bavaria, the placid Chiemsee and the restless Caribbee entwine as the Preen steals upon my slumber, evoking tender memories of childhood and of home. Okay, and the other one is it would fit in with the Windrush generation, I think. I may have read this before. It's a man from Montserrat who traveled as they did in the 50s, 60s, and he had a job as a caretaker. I met him as a caretaker in one of the schools where I worked. And he worked very hard as migrants do, saved up every penny. And when he retired, he had his house built in Montserrat and invited us all to come along when we were passing by, you know. And He showed us his house, really nice. Then he goes to Montserrat, and then there's the volcano just a couple of years later. And I wondered whether Michael's house survived and how he did, because I didn't know. And they said somebody remembered seeing him back in London. So he comes as a young man, he goes back now as an elder. He has to come back because his house is destroyed, back to live with his daughter. So I wrote Whatever Happened to Michael. So I'll just get the words in case I go blank, because that happens a lot. Yeah. Am I boring you? Sorry. Page 56.
There's no rush, Jane. No
Okay.
rush.
Right. Whatever Happened to Michael? From his balcony on the 17th floor of a London tower block, an old black man sits flying paper planes. He launches them with great dexterity. Then through thick binoculars, he follows their descent and smiles with satisfaction as they zigzag crazily to the ground. Says everybody see Michael's house, the one he built with all his savings, the one he built with his own hands. He just looked around and it was gone. He just looked around and it was gone. From the top of his mountain on Montserrat, Lord Vulcan too amuses himself, sitting on his haunches in a state of undress, leaning forward to perform such an unmannerly display of belching, throat clearing, and spitting that the devil himself would cringe. Says anybody see Michael's house, the one he built beneath the mountains, a lovely house, natural fountains. He just looked around and it was gone. He just looked around and it was gone. I knew a man named Michael once who had but one ambition: to build a back home island dream house of his own, high up on a hill with the sea as his front lawn, wild woods as his backyard, and mountain ranges for a fence, and he did. With his lifetime savings in his own two hands, he built this house, now nothing but a blurred memory. Blurred by billowing black smoke, the sulfuric smell of red-hot ash, and the acrid taste of volcanic soot. Say, has anybody seen Michael's house? Has anybody seen this dream home? He just looked around and it was gone. He just looked around and it was gone. And now, as I watch this frail elder while away his days from the confines of this concrete height, I remember Michael and cannot help but wonder whatever's become of him. Says everybody seen Michael's house? Has anybody seen just looked around and it was gone. Thank you.
Oh, well, Jane, it seems such a massive profanity that somewhere as beautiful as Montserrat can be like almost wiped out, you know, like that.
Almost half
Mm.
the island's gone. No,
Yeah.
I don't know whether George's house collapsed, but
Michael's.
my imagination
Yeah.
one side, his house could have gone down. I'm hoping it didn't.
Yes.
But nature can be cruel.
Yes, true.
Survived living 30, 40, even 50 years and goes back
Absolutely.
and then,
Yeah.
yes. Yeah, nature.
Okay. Thank you, Jane. That's beautiful. I think Mohammed's going to lose his place as our resident bard if he's not careful.
Not here. Do you think he's watching football?
No, he's
Wow.
here. He's here. He's laughing.
Oh,
He will make a comment shortly. And Lorraine, good evening as well, Lorraine. Nice to see you. Mohammed, in fact, it is your turn. You're on. Are we going to get Boris Johnson tonight?
Yes. Thank you.
Oh, here's Mohammed.
Yeah, we got Boris Johnson tonight. Yeah, Boris Johnson is in Parliament and he's going to just make a brief observation on Southern-on-Sea, because I went to Southern-on-Sea and he just can't resist saying something on Southern-on-Sea, and it's going to be rather poetic. He's written a book on Shakespeare and he's becoming a poet. So,
we can't
but because it's July, I'm going to sing a sort of July-ish song, which is Julia, July. Half of what I say is meaningless, but I say it just to reach you, July. Julia, July, ocean child calls me, so I sing a song of love, Julia. Julia, seashell eyes, windy smile calls me, so I, Julia, Julia. Thank you. And then I wrote a few poems in Southern-on-Sea, where I was for 3 nights at a friend's place. So this is Capital of Clean. What can bring clean air here? Spinning blades that are raised. Who can be better on average? Carers can be goaded by words. What does the unpolluted river mean? No wastes deposited in the stream. What does maintain the peace here? Respect for others and honest efforts. Why is London way too loud? Because the shores of calm sounds are far. Who can make London be placid? West Cliffers and chalk welders, mates. What does old Southern-on-Lee need? Tourists that fly flags of unity, hat full of honest intention, youngsters learning skills, peaceful. What can make Southern the capital? River lovers, dream weavers, and luck. Thank you. Just an insane idea that Southern can actually be the capital instead of London. It's so pretty, it's beautiful. It's got wind turbines that you can see, and it's just very peaceful there. So it should be the capital. You know, it's just an insane idea. Anyway, but Boris is here to correct. I echo my friend and agree with our mess that Southern needs a turbo boost, not a lackwater bog of a place, a crying disgrace. Madam Speaker Lindsay, now as a city, Southern will no longer be a constipated back end, but will unleash its mighty flood, thereby winning us the trophy for good. Thank you.
Bacon. Well, it's an aristocratic sort of place. It's got its own pier. Oh, that's enough pun.
Yeah, yes, he's got his own peer. He's got peers, plural peers.
Oh, it's got piers, has it? All right. So is that it? Is that you for the night, Mohammed? Or for the first half, or you've got any more? Or are you gonna?
That's me for the first half.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
You
So
want me to go for another one?
No, it's fine. We can do part two. I think we need to move on to Norman. Norman, good evening, Norman.
Hello, George. Hello, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah. Good.
Yeah.
Okie doke. I'll try and stay on for the second half, George. It's been a busy Friday for me, so I'll try and stay awake. Just in case, I'm going to do three. The first one is rather dark. Second one's a bit of fun, and the third one is sort of reminiscing about some happy times in the past. The first one is based on the Highland clearances. I know it's a big subject, etc. For some people, they came out of it well, emigrated to America and Canada and never looked back. There's also quite a high percentage of people that just did not want to move. And it got a bit nasty in many occasions. So I'm going to take you back to the late 1700s. And this is called Ticket to America. We emerged wearily on horseback from the brooding Scots pine woodland into a large clearing, where stood a stone cottage and a couple of outbuildings, nestled in a few barren acres, which gently rolled down to the fresh running river. A ghostly wisp of smoke rose from the cottage chimney. Inside the cottage, there were a few chairs and tables strewn around, broken in parts, like kindling ready for the log fire. Splashes of blood stained the compact chamber bed in the corner. A wooden doll next to a torn, trodden woman's shawl lay in the mud on the path to the outbuildings. There was no sign of livestock outside. We stepped into the nearest outbuilding and found a slaughtered dog lying in a shallow pool of congealed blood. A feral cat with one eye was licking the matted blood on the straw floor. There was a rank smell of wounded flesh, and there, hanging from the rafters, a crofter, all life expired. Feeling sick and shaking, we moved on to the farthest outbuilding, which stored grain and livestock feed. It was strangely left intact, perhaps for a return visit. Suddenly, a gentle breeze carried a humming sound our way, and there, sitting on the riverbank, an old lady dressed in black, rocking back and forth, clutching a blanket to her bosom, staring into space. And so we were left with a scene depicting the punishment paid for clinging to the homeland and refusing the ticket to America. Thank you. Okay, to lighten up a bit, this one's a wee bit of fun. I personally love close-up magic, if that's what you call it. I like magic in general, magicians in general. Of course, it's all an illusion. So on that basis, I made this up. It's short, right? It's called magic. Magic can be an illusion. For example, when you're looking for your potato peeler in the miscellaneous cutlery drawer and cannot find it, but it is there. That's an illusion. You look and look again. You scan and sift. It has to be there, but still the neurons in your mind do not register. Suddenly, there it is, clear as a pebble in the crystal clear water of a highland stream, resting, ready for action by the ice cream scoop. However, the illusion turns into cruel reality. For having found the potato peeler, you are reminded that it's your turn to peel the spuds. I thank you. And my final one, this is probably going to be, this character is going to become part of a much bigger piece, maybe a short story or whatever. It's about looking back in the headier times of fairground attractions, carnivals, especially the seaside. And the guys who worked on the carnivals, some of them owned the stalls and the equipment. A lot of them were just glorified laborers, but they were called the carnies. So they worked in the carnivals, but called the carnies. Now, I've got a name for this guy, but for tonight's purpose, I'm going to just call it the Carney Man. Sitting in the promenade shelter, the Carney Man looks out to sea. He sees a rusty old fishing boat bobbing back into its harbour haven. A good bit out to sea, a huge oil tanker sits like a giant vulture awaiting its prey. He's an old man now, left with fairground travelling memories and a heavy limp from dismantling the helter-skelter. Some of his memories register as if it were yesterday, buckling in the mini-skirted girls and older women, mutton dressed as lamb. For them, a world of make-believe just for one day, a world where they escape from the tenement tensions, the cobbled streets, and the dirty grime-faced children hanging around their skirts. A world where summer teenage love blossomed, promised rings were shared, a passion that would wither come the winter months. He contemplates that all the fun of the fair has gone, like the shifting sands before him. For the dwarfs are in the Christmas pantomime. The bearded lady, she's in a care home. The stuffed zebra, which folks sat on for photos, now resides in a dusty carnival museum. The fortune tellers spin their tales at seance nights in town. Rosa no longer summons you to hook a rubber duck and win a goldfish in a small plastic bag. She married a successful footballer and now lives up the West End. Henry, the elderly dwarf who appeared from his Wendy house in his pen, no longer winks at the girls with a twinkle in his eye, announcing, "I like the girls," which played to the suggestive juices of the baying audience. The Carney Man watches the children dotted along the beach and fill their buckets with sand, building their sandcastles and flying their kites. But his memories linger on. He can still smell the candy floss in the salty air. Images in his mind of promenade cafes selling 99 flake cones, toffee apples, gelato at the outside hatch. And inside, burgers, deep fried chips, dark brown onions, all served on paper plates. Down at the links, he remembers the circle of lorries and wagons of all shapes and sizes that mapped the fairground arena. Twister, Chairplanes, Helter-Skelter, Dive Bombers, Dodgems, Ghost Train. Penny arcades where a penny in the slot would light up your chosen jockey for the ride of his life until the next meeting. One-armed bandits with the lose of 3 bells. Slot a sixpence into the jukebox in the corner, then choose 3 records and create your very own beach ballroom where the Beatles once played. Come in, don't be scared, try your luck, the stall holders shout their pitch. To the rhythm of the diesel engines and the booming music, the caravan children run barefoot between the rides and the gaudy painted cabs of the large diesel lorries snorting like bulls in a ring. It's hide and seek paradise. The men are bruised and weather beaten from years on the road, and the women dark tanned with Romany, jet black hair and jade eyes. The Carney man is left with haunting pipe organ melodies in his mind, but now he has to leave the traveling fairground world behind, for down on the beach, his family await. So he limps down the steps with walking stick in hand to join his daughter and grandchildren on the sparkling sand. Thank you.
Excellent, Norman. Excellent. Full of sensitivity and pathos. We seem to be going down that road tonight with James manned in the tower block and whether he's still got his home after the volcano. I was minded of Ian Blackford in the House of Commons, and he was talking about Australia and the impact on crofters of the sheep thing. And Boris Johnson snidely turned around to him and said, I bet you've never lived in a croft. And I thought, listen, mate, he's probably more in touch with where he's from than you are, you know? and I just thought it was so cruel for a leader of a country to come out with a remark like that. You know, that's me. Nobody picked up on it, but I did on the news. I thought that pretty disgusting. Anyway, I would have voted SNP if I'd have been Scott, I tell you straight away. I think he's trying to make the SNP win. So, sorry, that's a bit of politics. Sue, good evening, Sue.
Hello, good evening. Hi, everybody. I've got three very short poems, if that's okay, because I'll just stay for this half. And two are ones I've done before, but there's one new one. The first one, it's just an observation. It's called Fog. Listen to the silence, thick as sleep. The lovely fields are painted out. The world has closed to just this room. No sound, no sight. No clocks here marking off the hours. No post, no telephone. Outside, the canvas chairs are sodden. The grass is wet. No morning blackbird, and my words unsaid. What's that one? Thank you. And this next one is, I've got a friend who's a martial artist and he teaches Tai Chi and I do Tai Chi. And he's 80 years old now. He's an amazing guy, so strong. And I wrote a poem for him. He invited me to his birthday, his 80th birthday party. So I've written a poem for that. And it's called Rainbow Dance. Then he asks his students, have you ever really looked at a rainbow? No one answers. This isn't how it usually goes. They don't know what to say. Outside in the car park, a warm wind shakes the leaves and there's a harvest moon. Through the open door, a moth blows in and settles at the teacher's feet. It is autumn, finally, the turning of the year, and everything about to change. This urban shaman, warrior, healer, stands there softly with the moth and speaks of love. Later on, his students leave, bow their respect and head for home. But that feeling, that inside joy, it stays with them. Thank you. And the last one is a new one I've just written, and it's called Kairos. After windswept phases, things fall into place. There will be some certainty of light, a clear and painful beauty when you know just what to do. The moon will pour into the street, and for a moment, you'll be startled by your longing, how the taste of it seems scarlet in your mouth. Is and is not briefly relocate. The world rebalances. Rare to brush against the texture holding everything together, eavesdrop on that underlying pulse. But this is healing salt. This is the tenderness of transient things. Thank you.
Sue, what was the second one called? Oh, you're muted.
Rainbow Dance, Rainbow Dance. And that's a move in one of the Qigong yeah, so it's relevant to him, really.
He asked that question and nobody answered it in terms of the rainbow.
No, they didn't know, because they just didn't have a clue. No.
Well, you did say he was enigmatic, so
He's a very enigmatic guy. Yes.
Did you
I
like
thought they were beautiful poems, and you used metaphor so beautifully. So
Thank you.
I'm
Yeah.
stunned. They're lovely.
Lovely.
Yeah.
Really good.
Great. Thanks.
Now we're going to the Isle of Wight to Steve. Hi, Steve.
Hi, George. How everybody? Hope you can hear me okay.
Yeah, coming through lovely.
Yeah, great. I'd just like to read one poem for you tonight. It's an adaptation of a John Donne poem, the Renaissance poet John Donne. Academics and schoolboys call this poem the talking penis poem, and it's because there is an alter ego to it. I'm interested in poems where there are two voices, and the second voice is the poet's more priapic nature. And I read an academic text that said that Donne was a solicitor who used to go on the RAS in the evenings along with his other kind of lawyer friends. And then the judges tried to put a stop on this by including regulations to say you can't do this, you can't do that. So this is really a debate between the kind of the sober side of the poet and the more priapic and bacchanalian side of the poet. That's updated to kind of 1990s Soho, if you get the references. So, Undone in Soho, an adaptation of John Donne's Satire 1, itself in imitation of Horace. Away, thou fondling motley humorist, and leave, and in this standing wooden chest, consorting with these books, just let me lie, in prison here be coffined when I die. Here nature's secretary and philosopher and jolly statesman teach me how to tie the sinews of a city's mystic body. Chroniclers are gathered, by them stand fantastic giddy poets from each land. Shall I then leave this constant company and follow headlong, wild, uncertain thee? First, swear by your best work in earnest not to leave me waiting in the street, though some more spruce companions you might meet. Perhaps a certain artist walks your way with painted products, like them and you'll likely pay. Perhaps a brisk, perfumed, pert courtier winks with a nod, your confidence restored. Or else a velvet poet with one mighty poem 90 verses long, and you will grin and fawn at them, prepare a speech to court their feet, chiaroscuro, meter, bouffant hair, for better or for worse, for foul or fair, drag me along with promises you'll swear. And sooner may a gulling weather spy, by drawing forth the heaven's scheme, tell certainly what fashioned hats or ruffles suits next year our subtle-witted antique youth will wear. We're in the streets. And there, improvidently proud, we find a bar, and so imprisoned, hemmed in, we will self at ease our liberty. And though we cannot venture forth to meet each fine and silken painted fool that's seen, we call to them with winking smiles, allure and laugh and shrug, and thus an itch endure. As prentices or schoolboys who might know of some gay sport abroad, yet dare not go, as violinists bow at highest sound, we with the sweetest grovel near the ground, but with the grave don't ever move, unlike at birth or squirming outside entrances of love. Now leaping upright, nudging me, you cry, you see that favoured youth, which one? Oh yes, it's he that dances so divinely. Oh, say I, he's dancing for that dunce's company. You droop till one who does excel in smoking his tobacco well arrives, we chat. You leave for brief flirtations, hover then outstay your welcome, saunter back and whisper, crude, despite a handsome face and suit of lace, that man of all these men most rude. Our dull comedians will want them and he'll go, but oh God, give me strength. Why does he stoop so low? Not understanding much, I ventured thus. He seems the perfect metropolitan. So is the pox, I'm answered. Then you spy more men of sorts and parts and fly, when by the window someone fresh is seen, and like a drunkard vomiting, you fling from me, so violently attracted by your lechery. Before we know it, all comes out. You could command no more. Embarrassed, we are shown the door and leave. You come with hanging head, and constantly we go back to our solitary bed. Thank you.
They could certainly express themselves well in the 16th century, couldn't they? I love some of the language in there. It's amazing, beautiful, very good. Lorraine, good evening, Lorraine.
Right. Okay. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, that's fine.
Good. I've written one about the new artistic age, and it's about making the best of a right of way during one's life. So I'll start. Do you reflect on the lingering lockdowns? Have they sullied your chances? No nightclubs, no dances, no box at the opera, no art exhibitions, no San Lorenzo dinners, nor Wimbledon winners. Try not to grieve. You'll doubtless receive a Damascene episode, and your soul will want to explode. You don't need to visit a gallery, a vacation resort, or the ballet. Set a tryst with your audiologist. Hasten and don't dare to dally. Gaze with awe at the screen. It relies on micro-endoscope, the high-tech that tries to give hope, e.g. the Jobson horn or the earhook. Tools mining mounts of mire from each cranny and nook. The image you'll see first surpasses Damien Hirst, so cryogenically cursed and keen on formaldehyde. But Tracy Emin's unkempt bed was famous and worst. 'Twas gloriously hailed as sloth exemplified. What comes up next on the Audio Pro's peerless computer telly outshines El Greco's view of Toledo, now in New York City. And the next frame looks the same as Ivan Alvazosovsky's Ninth Wave, revered in St. Petersburg's Russian State Museum. Just think what you save. Perhaps if you ever find a dentist again, you'll be forced to look up at the ceiling. The artistic display might cause dismay, but the anaesthetic will dull all your feeling. But that's what happened, first of all, in the audiologist, and you could probably see the screen what's happening in your mouth if you go to a dentist. This could never happen years ago, but now they tell you to watch it, like the baby scans. It's just fascinating. I found so anyhow. I've got one for later. You know, the scans, it's wonderful.
It's marvelous how an imaginative poet can take something as simple as a hearing test to these wonderful places, Lorraine. Thank you very
We've
much.
got it in one. That's good. Yes.
Yes, and
Yes.
your volume is spot on this week. I have to say, your sound is really good. Probably
Good.
one
Well,
of the
I've
best
got the
we have.
thing in now. I've got another one later.
Yeah.
To help. Thank you.
Very good. Can we move over to Martin? Good evening, Martin.
Good evening, George.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I'll read a couple from the book.
Yeah.
The one book I've managed to get published. This one's called Time Capsules. And how the heart's blood gradually congeals in remote fringes after many years of neglect. Ice invades the veins and seals in winter all its faculties and fears. Who can free this dreamer from his cold sarcophagus? Expect no spring to thaw your prisoned soul, unseasonably old, unless such glacial weather should withdraw, as that Iceman exposed again revealed all his time-locked secrets to a world so greatly changed, with people, though, unhealed of all their ancient wounds. Truth unfurled, still frozen in that heart of bristlecone. Such slow growth, 100 times the span of human life. Both core and thawed-out bone sing out as no sentient being can. This is a rather lighter one. Perchance to dream. The solitary sleep less disturbed, according to a recent survey. Recent when I wrote it. The single sleeper, islanded in seas of dream, floats wisely on his pillow night by night. No foot dare swirl the flow of cool meltwater stream across a mental plain, and purest white are all his thoughts and sheets. Would it were otherwise, wry castaways observe, incontinent content, no island's prize like warmth of breath, fine skin and nerve. Long live all restless pairing, twin-bedded middle age, body refreshed but heart despairing, would be too desolate a hermitage. Something from Richard Wilbur, my favourite poet. This is called Part of a Letter. Easy as cove water rustles its pebbles and shells in the slosh spread seethe and the backsliding wallop and tuck of the wave, and just that cheerful tables and earth were riding back and forth in the minting shades of the trees. There were whiffs of anise, a clear clinking of coins and glasses, a still crepitant sound of the earth in the garden drinking the late rain. Rousing again, the wind was swashing the shadows in relay races of sun spangles over the hands and clothes and the drinkers' dazzled faces, so that when somebody spoke and asked the question, "Comment s'appelle cet arbre-là?" a girl had gold in her tongue and gave this answer, "Ça, c'est l'acacia." Hope you can cope with the French.
Sounds a bit saucy, that one, Martin.
No, not really.
Not really. Well, I've fallen off from single beds and double beds. I thought it might be, but there you
All
go.
right.
My French is worse than basic.
This is a more recent one of mine, Mining the Archive 2, Memories of Childhood. Though the future's unknown and what's past too obscure, yet from memory's store some bright flashes arise. In their flickering light, nostalgia's cure is effected, though too often all detail lies, tantalizing out of our reach. We endure mere fragments. What sticks as a random amalgam, a kaleidoscope of feeling. Tears were rare or short-lived. A door would slam, and all forgotten. Sunshine clears those clouds. What would later become of childish innocence? As a boy with junk-handle ears, blonde hair, slewed teeth, bad skin and lungs, could not destroy the buoyancy of youth. Beneath these burdens, still content, my joy in life's adventure still intact. At my first school, a gnawing fear, a boy I avoided, though in fact I walked home unscathed to scare a younger child myself by tractor's compensation. Oh, what malice lurks within us. As he froze, I relished this unholy vice. A sense of power, such evil grows when nurtured. Here's a real slice of human nature, so exposed it will destroy false notions of progress. Our family, enclosed at home, nursed fatuous illusions we were middle class, disposed to arrogance. We coldly shun our neighbours, though we also lived in council red brick housing, done with matching doors and windows, connived to boost our status. Yet we won few friends, and only fostered those perceived as of our social class. Lonely at home as Providence chose my birth, between two sisters, as some years apart, you may suppose that shaped my character. I know this made me quiet, self-absorbed, a trifle aloof. This would go, but not until much later, daubed on my inner core to grow into the later man. As years creep by, time moves so slowly for a child, so patience bears reluctant fruit, and what was holy grew much later in arrears. Thank you.
You're right, Martin. He's pretty good, isn't he? Good, wonderful poet. Thank you.
That was mine.
Sorry. And
That was one of
yours
mine.
weren't bad, but I'm talking about your final
Yeah.
one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Yes. Can we move over to Anne then, please? Anne, hi.
Good evening, George.
Evening.
This is teaching you how to suck eggs. Poems do not have to rhyme, but if you do, to pass the time, pay heed to the rhythm too, to keep the structure straight and true. Make sure the rhyme does not dictate the content, and it shouldn't grate unpleasantly upon the ear, making the content far less clear. Good rhyming will enhance your verse. Bad will only make it worse. So if you don't feel quite secure, free verse is best for you, that's sure. Wedding anniversary. Still alone, still limping along like an amputee. Sometimes the road is smooth. Sometimes I must take my crutches into the desert, trudging through the heat, the flies, the resistant sand, towards a destination imperfectly perceived. Maybe I'm seeing a mirage, maybe merely an oasis. When I come to the end, I shan't know where I am. I travel without a map. I only know, you who think that it's brave to travel alone through the desert, or that it proves limbs can regenerate, that I am still crippled, that I am not brave, but taking what in the end is the only remaining option.
Wow, Anne, that's so powerful.
And a very short one. Dark hair in childhood, pale skin, green eyes, morph into white hair with weathered skin. I am become, I see, a photographic negative of my youth.
Thank you, Anne. Lovely poems. Thank you very much. Yeah. I sort of smiling at your gentle touching on rhyme and non-rhyming poetry. It was quite a good analysis. Now, Jack. Good evening, Jack.
Hello.
Are you ready? You ready for us? Are we ready for you? Yeah, perfect.
Okay, I'm ready to go. This poem was born out of frustration, waiting for a bus that never came. Because fool that I am, I was waiting at the wrong bus stop. And when eventually a bus came along, the driver said, no, you're at the wrong stop, but get on this. I'll get you to a stop where you can join up with a bus that will take you to, well, damn me if his bus didn't break down on the way that we were going to. So it became I started to be comic at this stage, and the frustration started to, a jindle started to formate in my head. And here it is. It's called, there are 4 quatrains. And the last line is a sort of a chorus containing, I'm afraid, some Anglo-Saxon English. And it's called Buses. Which buses bus to Bromley? Bridlington by the sea plus booking fee. Beasts, birds, broadsheets and Bramley, but bugger all for you and me. No beating buses, so they say, that's barking up wrong tree. 2 up and 3 away, but bugger all for you and me. Bundling buses broken down, most likely licensed free. A tenner each plus half a crown, still bugger all for you and me. Beware, bold traveller, of the priest who wanders off to have a pee. But maybe, traveller, he's the beast who's just the bloke for you and me.
Very good, Jack. Have you got another one for us?
I've got something, but can I come back in the second half with something quite different?
That would be fine. That would be fine. Okay, thank you very much. That was very amusing. Thank you.
My pleasure.
All human life is there. Thank you.
I can join the news of the world, can I?
Yes. Alan, good evening, Alan.
Evening. Can you hear me okay? This was a journey coming home from London. It's called Disquiet. The train pulled into London Bridge Station. There he stood at the platform edge with his back to the train. He looked solid as if hewn from rock, dressed in camouflage combat trousers, jacket and cap. The train stopped. His back was towards my window. It was as if he was guarding the train rather than waiting for a connection. His feet were apart as if standing at ease, but he wasn't. He appeared to be at full alert. His head turned left, then right, then left again, surveying all that was going on around him. Commuters boarded the train. A woman asked if he was queuing to get on. He turned to her, looked her up and down, but he wasn't really looking. It was more like he was scanning her. He seemed to register as insignificant, turning away without saying a word. He continued to observe the changing scene around him on the platform. She gave him a wide berth and boarded the train. There were only a few people on the platform now. An elderly couple sat opposite where he stood. Their eyes looked at their feet, never looking up, afraid to meet his gaze. The doors closed. As the train pulled away, you could see he held a crutch in his right leather gloved hand, maybe to help an old injury. He swung the crutch in an arc from left to right, as if it may have been a mine detector. The train continued to pull away. He turned his head to the right, catching my gaze. His eyes locked on mine, and it felt as though he was looking deep into my soul, as if he knew I was watching him. Yet I could see no emotion, only the shark-like stare. The train continued on his way, but he never moved from his position, watching the train disappear into the distance. This left me with an extreme feeling of disquiet, and I wondered what his story was. Thank you. And this one, my son came over, it was nearly 3 years ago now, from New Zealand. It was the first time he'd met his new niece, I think that's right, his brother's daughter. It's called The Moment. She called your name and took your hand and showed you round the garden. Your connection made, your love displayed, you lifted her to smell a rose. In autumn sun, the fragrance hung as she reached to touch the final petals. She looked at you, on her hand the rose perfume, engraved that moment in your souls. You put her down, she touched the ground, you both continued your discovery. This new relationship starts with 2 broken hearts because you must go away. The first time the uncle met his niece, the moment bathed in tranquility. Observed by only one, the father of the son, hears their words softly in the distance. His tears were choked, emotions cloaked, his heart broken in that instant. Thank you.
Is that it for now, Alan? Or you?
Yeah, I might have something else short.
All right, we've got time. Yeah.
Okay, just bear with me a sec. Oh, here we go. This is called The Woman of My Dreams. Doctor, doctor, can you please give me the face of the woman of my dreams? I'll look after it with all the creams. I'd also like some Botoxed lips and slender wasp-like waist and hips. I know that it all sounds extreme, but please can you make me the woman of my dreams? I know it's not your usual line, but do your best and please be kind. The bandages are off. She looks divine. Oh, thank you, Dr. Frankenstein.
Spot on. Thank you.
Thank you.
Failed to bring a smile.
Yeah.
I to come from all the sort of intricate family relationships onto, you know, where these beauticians might lead you to, or these facial surgeons. Very good.
Well, yeah, just about sort of like sums up my life, really.
Well, we're perfect in every way, aren't we, Alan? We don't have to go there. So, Peter, have you anything for us, please?
I'm going to read a couple of poems by Michael Donaghy.
Uh-huh.
I went to a funeral last week and there was a stained glass window behind the altar of the church of Christ walking on the water and St. Peter walking out to him. And I thought of this poem, Reprimands, John 20, 24, 29. We fell out of love as toddlers fall, glancing down, distracted at their feet, as the pianist in the concert hall betrays her hands to thought and adds an extra beat, the thought vertiginous, the reprimand. It fells the bee mid-flight. It made me stall before a holy water font in Rome, half afraid that if I dipped my hand, I'd find the water's surface hard as stone, and, this you'd never understand, half afraid to leave the thing alone. For I had been taught that Jesus walked the sea, and came to Peter 3 leagues out of port. Said Peter, bid me to come unto thee, and strode on faith dry foot, until he thought, and thinking sank. I'd never learnt to swim, but I'd seen insects skim across a pond, and I'd seen glasses filled above the brim. Some firm conviction keeps a raindrop round. What kept me rigid as a mannequin? We fell out of love and nearly drowned. The very wordlessness all lovers want to feel beneath their feet like solid ground, dissolved to silences no human shout could ripple, like the surface of that font when other voices, tourist and devout, grew still, and someone whispered by my side, O ye of little faith and shallow doubt, choose here to wet that hand or stand aside. No one was there, but I could tell that tone. I heard his ancient apostolic voice this evening when I went to lift the phone to tell you this, and froze. The reprimand. For once in 2 minds Thomas made the choice to bless and wet with blood his faithless hand. And another Michael Donaghy poem, Liverpool. Ever been tattooed? It takes a whim of iron, takes sweating in the antiseptic stinking parlour, nothing to read but motorcycle magazines, before the blood-sopped cotton and, of course, the needle, all for, at best, some Chinese dragon. But mostly they do hearts, hearts skewered, blurry, spurting like the Sacred Heart on the arms of bikers and sailors. Even in prison they get by with biro ink and broken glass, carving hearts into their arms and shoulders. But women's are more intimate. They hide theirs under shirts and jeans in order to bestow them. Like Tracy, who confessed she had had hers done one legless weekend with her ex, heart, arrow, even the bastard's initials RJL, somewhere where it hurt, she said. And when I asked her where, snapped Liverpool. Wherever it was, she had it sliced away, leaving a scar, she said, pink and glassy, but small, and better than having his mark on her, that self-same mark of Valentinus, who was flayed for love, but who never, so the cardinals now say, existed. Desanctified, apocryphal, like Christopher, like the scar you never showed me, Trace, your ex, your Liverpool. Still, when I unwrap the odd anonymous note, I let myself believe that it's from you.
Thank you, Peter. That second one is so witty. They're
Yes.
both excellent, but so witty. I'm going to read a poem by Khalil Gibran, who's a Lebanese poet, for no other reason than I find he's such a wise man, and his words about children are so beautiful and wonderful to me, and true. And this is called Children, Chapter 4. And a woman who held a babe against her bosom said, "Speak to us of children." And he said, "Your children are not your children. They are the sons and daughters of life's longing for itself. They come through you, but not from you. And though they are with you, yet they belong not to you. You may give them your love, but not your thoughts. You may house their bodies, but not their souls. For their souls dwell in the house of tomorrow, which you cannot visit, not even in your dreams. You may strive to be like them, but seek not to make them like you. For life does not go backwards, nor tarries with yesterday. You are the bows from which your children are as living arrows are sent forth. The archer sees the mark upon the path of the infinite, and he bends you with his might, that his arrows may go swift and far. Let your bending in the archer's hand be for gladness, for even as he loves the arrow that flies, so he loves also the bow that is stable. I think it's a fantastic poem, really. Wish I could write something like that. This is a poem I wrote about World War I, which seemed particularly tragic, and especially it was also followed up by the Spanish flu, which killed 17 million people, which, what's happening today hasn't got a touch on that, really, when you think about it. Anyway, it's called Time Does Not Teach. From Limehouse to Lymington, from Limehouse to Lymington, Dundee to Dungeness, they went for king and country for to don their battle dress. Drawn from cottage and from mansion, gutters, farms and smoky slums, drilled to march and follow orders in the face of enemy guns. It was not for them to query the folly of it all, or wonder who might step back from the edge, as they huddled in the wetness of the blasted clay, where screaming shells had taken every tree and hedge. Here the wary and the fearful, the brave and the bold, would find that delicate thread of sanity too difficult to hold. Some came back lame or crazy, others did not make it home, but many were to follow, unless a lesson never learned, that no more men should end their days beneath a foreign loam. There we are, boom, boom. Right, that's part one. We can all unmute. Bye.
Hi, thanks, Peter, George. Yeah, all I'm going to do, guys, is the last time you guys were away, Peter, George, is that a month ago? I think it is. So I'm going to read the two poems that you missed. There we'll have it. The first one is called Touring Coaches. And there's one section based on a tour in the Scottish Highlands, and the second one is based on a tour in Arizona. They're quite short. Touring Coaches, Scottish Highlands. The hotel owner stands almost to attention outside the grand oak door of his Deer Antler Hotel. It is late afternoon and the touring coach pulls in with excited elderly passengers on board. Excited because Mr. Hotel Owner is dressed in full Scottish Highland dress, tartan kilt, dress jacket and waistcoat, thick green socks, gleaming black brogues, and a long horsehair sporran which complements his yellow-aged, bushy handlebar moustache. The tourists disembark for their two-night stay. Scottish hospitality beckons with a myriad of food and drink linked to the local produce, Scotch broth, pheasant, grouse and salmon, local berry infused desserts. After an evening stroll on the edge of the vast purple heather moorland, they head back to the hotel from the quickening chill of the night, with a malt whisky or two as sustenance. They try not to succumb to the tam o'shanter hospitality into the early hours. Listening to the romanticism of Scottish folk literature recited by willing locals for another drink or two, tourist fodder which the enthralled visitors are willing to cling to. It's all a show for the pound in the hotel owner's pocket to help reduce the reality of a Spartan existence in the hills and glens. Part 2, Arizona. Step off the touring coach into the hot, snake-infested Arizona desert. It is the home of the Navajo Native American people. Still a proud people, but subjected to generations of political corruption and decline. Watch as the women, dressed in their multicolored garments, stitch and sew their souvenirs, whilst the men, hidden from view in the rear shadows, dressed in denim and cheap running shoes, shoot their daily heroin and drink their whiskey to forget the ramshackle reservation that the US government has left them with. The children pin their dream catchers on their bedroom walls, their protective talisman, for good and bad dreams fill the air at night. They pray for the Navajo Nation and better times ahead. Thank you. And the second one, guys, it's this could easily be an elegy, but I've written it when the person I'm talking to is still alive, but this could easily be converted. It's called Black and White Marigolds. Many years have passed. You now hold in your hand a faded black and white photograph, which has captured you as a young woman, sitting on a stool by the flower border, where a display of black and white marigolds exclaim their presence. Your eyes are squinting from the sun as you look into the camera lens. The marigold colors are still in your mind, but fading as the years pass by, slowly, serenely disappearing like the late sun on the horizon. You wonder, where did the time go? What have you achieved? Who have you loved? Who did you scorn? Who did you wish you spent more time with? But you deserve the right to recall the happy times, for they did exist, whilst falling in love and raising a family. A mother, grandmother, lover, and best friend. You give support and love, a shoulder to cry on. You have never hated anyone. You have the gift to play and enjoy music, appreciate literature, and write poetry. The black and white marigolds you see in the photograph, remember, they were crying out in their yellow-orange color, I shall brighten up your day and bring you pleasure. This and much more you have brought into the lives of friends and family and all those folks that have got to know you. Thank you.
Well, thanks for doing that, Norman. I'd have been miffed if I hadn't heard those things. They're very good. Thank you. Thanks a lot. So where are we going now? Now, Norman may or may not be with us for that much longer in this session. I've lost my list. Help, help. Oh, here we are. Panic over. It looks like Mohammed.
Hello again.
Hi, Mohammed.
Hello. I wrote some more poems about, altogether I wrote about 16 pages worth, some diary and some poetry. And I wrote some haikus as well. So I'm just gonna do 3 lines and then pause, 3 lines and pause. So I've got 5 haikus here.
Well, you could be Flash and call it a triolet. You could be Flash and pretend it's a triolet, you see.
All right. Okay. Yes,
yes.
I'll keep that in mind. Yes.
Yes.
Right. So all about going out into the river, but not in a boat. So going out into the river, not in a boat. Going out into the river, finding sandbanks. Going out into the river, Southern Pier. Going out into the wide river, to the River Isle. Now that could be a boat. I suppose a boat would take me there, but I was probably thinking of just a swim, maybe. Going out to the River Phoenix movie premiere. Going out into the river of dreams and peace, Mind Journey. Thank you. And then this one is What They Say, I Find. What do the gulls say when in comes the heavenly pipe? The cloudland laws have opened the way roads. There's downward missive now. How do the moored and sail up fare when the turbines turn? What joys do the dreamers find when the sun demands? How do the wheels roll? What does the river end say to the sea beginning when rainbow colors part to settle for our eyes? What does the earth sing? A tune of July summer's roll. Thank you. And then to finish off, a poem by Gerard Benson called Omba Balomba. And this is for July the 2nd. We're supposed to read it poem a day, July the 2nd. Omba Balomba. Omba, omba, babalo pom. Ambi, pongalong, ding ding brom. O puri, do puri, slib slob slom. Omba palomba, baba loli dom. Pin pinny lily pot, pin pinny plee. Bin bini pipi lot, wala pi. Omba golomba, babalo pom. Ambika, zambika, zim zim zom. Pithy words, pithy words. Thank you.
You could confuse most linguists with that one.
Yes, I'd like a translation, please, Mohammed.
Ask for a translation.
You'll have it on YouTube, so everybody's free to translate the way they want, and I'm sure you're going to pin it. You're going to nail it.
Yeah. I see. That's our challenge, is it? Right.
Yeah.
Now we can move on to Jane. Hi, Jane.
Hello.
Yeah.
Yes. I find nature fascinating. I think we all do. And this is the theme of migration and traveling and everything, keeping that theme. And it's the swallow. I've always wondered, how do the swallows manage to travel thousands of miles, leave England, travel to Africa and come back? I just don't understand how a small bird can be equipped with that strength. And I went to Mexico and somebody gave an explanation, the swallow. Where does she go as she leaves here, rapidly growing weary? And what if she finds herself lost in the wind, searching for her mate, unable to find him? And then we've got the mate's point of view. Together with my queen, we will find her nest where we can spend the season. But alas, I too am lost in this place, dear God, and I am unable to fly. I'll sing it in Spanish because I learned it in Mexico. ¿A dónde irá velocidad llegar? La golondrina que de aquí se va. Lucía en el viento se jalaba extraviada, buscando amigos y no la encontraba. Junto a mi rey encontrará su nido en donde pueda estación pasó. También yo estoy en la región perdida. Ay, cielo santo, y sin poder volar. ¿Dónde irá veloz y fácil la golondrina que de aquí se va? Si en el viento se jala extraviada, buscando amigo y no le encontrará. También yo estoy en la región perdida. Ay, cielo santo, y sin poder volar. También yo estoy en la región perdida. Ay, cielo santo, y sin poder volar. Ay, cielo santo, y sin poder volar. Ay, cielo santo, y sin poder volar. Yes.
You have some more for us, Jane?
I could read another poem, but how are we doing for time? Have you got time for me to do another?
Yeah,
one?
we've got plenty of time. There's only Jack,
Oh,
Alan,
good.
Peter, and myself to come.
Okay, I'll read something else with the
Oh, Lorraine, sorry, we've got Lorraine to come as well.
Yes, I've still got time to read one of the theme of travel again. 52. I went to Alicante for a break at a not very good time in my life. So I wrote this called Almeria Blues. Don't lay down and die, little mama. Don't lay down and die. Outside, the wind is howling, the noise of traffic rising. But close by, the sea is stirring, and you're gonna be all right. Don't lay down and die, little mama. Don't give up the ghost. Your bones may be aching and your heart suffocating, but out there, gentle waves are breaking, and you're gonna be all right. Don't lay down and die, little mama. Don't give up just yet. Sure, you never had a mama, and you barely knew your papa, but you had those loving aunties who came in different guises, and you've done all right. Don't lay down and die, little mama. You're not allowed just yet. Your baby's gone doolally and you don't know why. The pain digs so deep, you can't even cry. But just keep on holding tight. And as time goes by, you'll be all right. Don't lay down and die, little mama, at least not here in Almeria, where fruit is sweet as honey and the wine's divine. For as sure as those sunny skies keep beaming down, trust me, little mama, you are going to be all right.
The song was sweet, the poem was inspirational. Thank you very much, Jane.
Thank you, George. Flat
from
get you everywhere.
Yeah, it's lovely. I love that. Love that poem, especially.
Thanks.
Lorraine, hi.
This is another tribute to audiology, and also it's courtesy to Shakespeare, and I've called it It's a Secret They Won't Share With You. Here is a warning. If your hearing sags, some odd cog will be sought to relieve. Mysterious specimens are already lurking and lining up to retrieve, without doubt, the recovered sound. It's still around and sure to be found in adder's fork, blind worm's sting, lizard's leg and howlet's wing. It's why the xenotransplanters raise their voices in praise and sing. It's not a new thing. Tennis rackets are strung with cat gut to make the ball ping. And hogs are oft bred only to give frail folk a new start. They each donate their heart. Surgeon Bruno Reichart assures society have always consumed the swine. So it's socially acceptable that such heinous, immoral acts are wholly fine. If your hearing has pseudo-returned, you've had some small strange vessels interned, shoved down the canal and near the cochlea. They are hypodermically drugged to ensure you hear. They tried hard to flee the lab's love of alchemy, but these seahorses underwent taxidermy. It's not quite as ingenious or straightforward as sounds. Sometimes Ganus hippocampus becomes conscious and away it bounds. It drops off in a puddle and dives down the drain. It's searching for its beloved Mediterranean. You won't find it or make contact, for now it is free, but the NHS will replace it for a £62 fee. It just looks like a seahorse, and I think, it's taxidermy. They're stuffed and drugged, and then that was my take on it.
Yeah, you put the boot in at the end, didn't you? So after that long natural history lesson, and suddenly the boot goes in. Lovely, well done.
Thank you.
Oh, clever. Oh, no. Jack.
Yes.
Jack, yes. Are you good to go?
I can't see you, George, but anyway, never mind. I can hear you.
I can see me. I can see me.
I can't see you for some reason. Okay. Well, can you hear me?
Can hear you fine, Jack. I can hear you fine. I mean, I assume everyone else can see me. Yeah, yeah. Yeah. Sometimes, you can't bring everyone up on the screen, Jack. But anyway, we're recording now, so I'll be quiet. Okay.
Well, okay. Here's I've been reading some interesting poems by Reginald Gibbons. He's taken poems that he likes and added lines into them here and there. And he's produced some very interesting stuff indeed. I'll just give you a nice short one called Honeycombs and Cobwebs, which the inspiration is from the German poet Ossip Mandelstam. He deliberately doesn't tell you which lines are Mandelstrom's and which are his, but he wants you to read it as one thing. Honeycombs and cobwebs. Heaviness and tenderness, they're sisters, the same way bees and wasps will ply the same sweet languid rose. Sun's cool, people die, yesterday's sun is borne away in a hearse. Heavy honeycombs and tender webs. It would be easier to lift a boulder than to speak your name. But there's still one hope, a golden mirage to throw the time off my weary back. The air that fills my lungs flows dark, and time's ploughed under. Roses rise from the humble earth, whirling slowly, these roses tender, heavy, plate roses triste, tenderes, in a double wreath. Hello? Oh no, I've disappeared. I can't see. Oh yes, I can see myself
You're
again.
muted, George.
Do you want to do another one, Jack?
Not unless you'd like me to.
No, it's okay. It's. I think. How are we doing? Well, you've got time if you want. It's up to you. But if you haven't got one ready,
yes, there's one here which is. He starts off with a poem of Pasternak, written in 1917, and adds things into it, but he doesn't lay it out in any way that you know which is which. It has to be read as one poem, and it's called an anemone. The anemone stares with its wide open petals at all the new morning flowers around it. Awake through half the night as you sleep, I'd happily go sleepless for a century if I do it. Here, listening to the air slowly swaying inside the room, and beyond the window too, like calm sea waves among these boats we call our houses. Both the air and I are trying not to wake you, and so's the hermit thrush that's singing now as softly as it can. Even one anemone's a cosmos. Maybe the stars were made only for laughing with their inconceivably bright breath. Add everything up, orchard, fence, pond, wild wooded mountains, and in the empty kitchen, a glass of clean water, and the whole pitch black universe lit by a frothing nebula white screens. All of it at once. All of it is what one child, soft-stemmed to a thin weed, still unable to comprehend her own suffering, has in her own small heart, and does not know how to let pour out.
wonderful words, Jack. Lovely poem.
I like the musicality. I don't believe, of course, there's no indication in any poem that you read about any poet at what speed you should read it or where you should pause, or somebody else would read these poems in a vastly different way. But that's the kind of variance which I find very interesting.
Indeed.
It becomes another poem, doesn't it? When somebody else reads.
We've all got our own interpretation of it, so it's well read. Thank you, Jack. Can we move on to Alan then? Alan?
Hi there. This one initially is for Norman after he's talking about his love of magic. This was a situation that I found myself in, I don't know, about 4 years ago. It's called The Urban Magician. We were in Trafalgar Square when we were approached by two men in suits, one carrying a camera. They asked, "Would you like to see some magic?" "What, like abracadabra?" One whipped out a deck of cards, the other started filming. We were both asked to pick a card. Greg picked the 3 of clubs and I had a Queen of Hearts. The magician shuffled the cards and Greg replaced his in the deck. He shuffled again, then cut the cards, saying the top 2 cards were mine and Greg's. I told him I still had my card. He then realised he'd supposedly made a mistake. He then reshuffled the deck and I replaced my card into the deck. We both stood quite bewildered and wondered what was next. He then asked us to turn our hands palm up. He then gave the cards a cut. He placed the top 2 cards, one on each palm face down, telling us to wait. Then he turned them over again and again made a mistake, because I had got the 3 of clubs and Greg received the 10 of spades. He then turned the cards face down again and gave his fingers a click. Then when he turned the cards over, Gregor got the 3 of spades and I the Queen of Hearts. Wow, this guy was slick. We were laughing, our heads reeling, when he then asked me to write my name on the Queen and replace it in the deck. I put my hand palm up again and he placed the deck on top. Greg then placed his hand on top of the deck. The magician then pulled out a card at random and sure enough, it was the named Queen of Hearts. Once again, our heads were reeling as we laughed. Then he tells us, this is not the trick. Our hands are still in place as he tells us the trick is to make the deck of cards disappear. But Greg and I can still feel the deck between our hands. The magician then instructs Greg to remove his top hand and I'm left holding a block of clear plastic the size of a deck. We both stood there laughing, bewildered, thinking, what's just gone on? And when we looked up from the hand, like true magicians, poof, they were gone. Then someone said, have you still got your wallets? But of course we had. That night I lay laughing in bed, wondering how he did it. And for the next few weeks, it continued to mess with my mind.
Right. Well done, Alan.
It was just, yeah, mind-boggling. It was very clever. And to be all in my hand the whole time.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not obsessed, by the magicians, but what I will say is that when I first way back saw David Blaine do Close Up, this guy was incredible. And then he went off piste and he got all a bit weird for about 5-6 years.
Yeah.
Then he came back. More recently, he's back to like what I would call normal civilization. And he's doing stuff in people's houses and what have you.
Yeah.
And it's just unbelievable. You know, it's just an illusion. But how does he do it? You know?
Incredible. Dynamo's another one to check out.
Dynamo, that's another one. Yeah.
This one is too. It's slightly longer. It's the same length as the previous one, and then a short one to go with it. This is based again on. I was due to go out to New Zealand for the first time to visit my son, and then I had a stupid accident. So it's called The Fall. The best laid plans of mice and men have all just turned to shit. I tripped whilst out in the street and broke my arm and tore my thigh and hip. After 4 or 5 days, we are still in shock. But I have to thank my wife. She has been a rock. After being in excruciating pain for weeks and days and hours, the upside of it is that in the morning, I get assisted showers. I can't wash under both arms. It's difficult to dry my hair. I wobble in the doorways and I tremble on the stairs. There are certain things that are difficult when I'm on my own. I wince, support myself and gasp for air every time I sit on the throne. All the things I took for granted are now great feats or chores. I used to get up and go. Now it takes ages just to get to the door. I go for walks on sunny days. I stay in inclement weather. I can't cut my food. I can't even crack the pepper. I do my best to keep occupied when at home on my own by doing online shopping or texting mates on my mobile phone. I've tried to keep myself busy at every opportunity. I still can't make a sandwich and can just about make a cup of tea, but I can't carry them because I need to use a stick. So I stand to eat and drink, propped up in the corner, leaning against the kitchen sink. The time when I can use a knife and fork can't come too soon. In the meantime, everything I eat is eaten with a spoon. I now have a funny flipper arm to protect my new cast in the shower. The downside of this protection is no more assisted showers. The hair on my face grows twice as fast as the hair on my head. Now my wife won't come near me as I'm too prickly in bed. With a glint in her eye, she offered me a shave, but as much as I love her, I don't think I'm that brave. I can't tell you how pleased I am now that I can put on my socks. I can walk slowly down the street and twice around the block. I'm not sure if this was karma as I feel my confidence growing, but the lesson that I have learned is to look where I am going. And have we got time for a follow-up? This is a short one. This is called...
Yeah, you did say you were going to do it. You did say you were going to do another one, so we were very happy with that, Alan. Thank you.
This is called The Fracture Clinic. And this is like, sort of just shows you what a multicultural world that we live in. Sitting in the waiting room, the clinic is 60 minutes late. Everyone is frustrated as they wait and wait and wait. Overall, the room is a mixture of intolerance and calm as people sit waiting to have casts removed from leg or arm. A nurse appears from a corridor. She reads out some names. Holly Balance, Ivor Tripp, Mrs. Hopper, Arthur Falls. Could you please come this way? We sit containing our smirks. Then our thoughts are broken by another nurse. Anita Brake, Carol Slipped, Harry Twist, and Mrs. Stumbled. Another louder wave of smirking through the waiting room now rumbles. There's not many people left now. The waiting's nearly over. Finally, would you like to come this way, Mr. Toppled Over? All the names are true, but the majority of them were. It was like one of those weird twists of fate.
Yeah. What a varied evening we've had. We've had bearded ladies, wolves, we've had magicians and disability and hearing aids. Wow, interesting.
Thank you.
We go everywhere. All human life is here, as they say. Peter.
Right, I'm going to read a couple of poems by Lorraine Mariner. It's one called Chair. The staff room where I used to sit has a chair in it, different from all the other chairs where my boss always sat. The chair was there before she came. It wasn't her chair, but she always sat in it, and the rest of us never sat in it, even when she wasn't there, because it had become her chair. Of the other chairs, I often found myself drawn to one that looked out of the window, but when I noticed my boss sitting in her same different chair each break time, I tried to make myself sit in a different same chair and appreciate the walls, and my career goal became never be chair-tied. If you read this and find yourself sitting in a staff room in a chair you always sit in, or which you feel you should sit in, turn and say, "This is not my chair," to the person sitting alongside you. Or if you read this and find yourself looking at a chair you would like to sit in, stand up and get out of there as quickly as you can. And sorry. As I flick through all the things I've got marked, this poetry dreams. Some nights I dream about poetry. Not in poetry, which my friend thought I meant, the character speaking in verse, declaiming heroic couplets, which is maybe how you dream if you happen to be Milton, but rather what I would term poetry activities. In one dream I came fourth in a poetry competition, and in another I was at a reading by an up-and-coming poet who accompanied each poem with a dance routine. I did once have a good poetry dream, the one where I went into a country pub and there at a table were all the great women poets. They didn't invite me to join them, but ordering my pint at the bar, I got the impression one of them knew who I was. And in this dream I remember thinking that that was something, that this was a start.
5 minutes of fame. Hey, very good. Picking up on something Jack did earlier on, I wrote a poem where I pinched lines from famous poets and see if I could put them together. So these are poems by John Keats, Walter de la Mare, Robert Burns, Samuel Taylor Coleridge, Ted Hughes, and Thomas Hardy. So it's called Stolen Lines on Wintertime. The red breast whistles from a garden croft, and gathering swallows twitter in the sky. The squirrel's granary is full, and the harvest done, a harvest mouse goes scampering by. With silver claw and silver eye, thou saw the fields laid bare and waste, and weary winter coming fast, and now there's come both mist and snow, and it grew wondrous cold. Cold, delicately as the dark snow. A fox's nose touches leaf twig, every branch big with it, bent every twig with it, every fork like a white web foot, every street and pavement mute. So that was all nicked from different poets and put together. So now this is I don't know if you've ever heard of Edwin Brock, and he wrote this poem, 5 Ways to Kill a Man. There are many cumbersome ways to kill a man. You can make him carry a plank of wood to the top of a hill and nail him to it. To do this properly, you require a crowd of people wearing sandals, a cock that crows, a cloak to dissect, a sponge, some vinegar, and one man to hammer the nails home. Or you can take a length of steel, shaped and chased in a traditional way, and attempt to pierce the metal cage he wears. But for this, you need white horses, English trees, a man with bows and arrows, at least 2 flags, a prince, and a castle to hold your banquet in. Dispensing with nobility, you may, if the wind allows, blow gas at him. But then you need a mile of mud sliced through with ditches, not to mention black boots, bomb craters, more mud, a plague of rats, a dozen songs, and some round hats made of steel. In the age of aeroplanes, you may fly miles above your victim and dispose of him by pressing one small switch. All you then require is an ocean to separate you, 2 systems of government, a nation's scientists, several factories, a psychopath, and land that no one needs for several years. These are, as I began, cumbersome ways to kill a man. Simpler, direct, and much more neat is to see that he is living somewhere in the middle of the 20th century and leave him there. So there we are. Right, that's it, folks.
Very good, George.
Thank you, George.
Yeah,
Yeah, thank you, George. Thank you, Peter.
Brilliant.
it's been a fun evening, isn't it? Better than football, I think. Football doesn't hold a torch to this, in my humble opinion.
Do you want to know the score?
Not really.
Oh,
So, I said that to someone once about, my humble opinion. She said, "You've never been humble." And I said, "No, I said you've never been short of an opinion." So there we are.
yeah. Well, I'm going to say good night, all.